Welcome everybody, this is General Microsoft 365 Development Special Interest Group. So that's what the SIG means in this call. If you're not familiar with that one, this is Vibe equals Sync. It is January 21st, 2021. And today we can have again a relatively busy topic. So what we're planning to do again is to have the introduction section gone in 15 minutes, and then we have 3 demos, and every single demo spot have a 15 minutes. So that's always the objective. Now, Abby, you're the last demo person today, so hopefully we'll have the full 15 minutes for you as well. That's always the let's see what happens throughout the call. But we'll start with a update on the open source projects, and then we'll have a quick look on the latest on the Microsoft Teams samples, and then picture time with the together mode, and then the actual samples, hopefully 1/4 on the hour. Just a quick reminder on the opportunities on participating on this community. You can absolutely volunteer for doing live demos in this course, and that's a really, really great way of getting involved. And if you're looking into, for example, getting an MVP status, one of the ways of doing that is contributing in the community and doing live demos in this course, and then that counts as a valid contribution. And we obviously learning from others is a big deal related on learning new stuff and new options. The second way of contributing is contributing in GitHub. We have multiple GitHub locations. We're going to contribute them in a second. And then the most important piece is actually to provide feedback. So super important piece as well. Now, let me actually move forward on the slide. So just a quick recap slide on all of the things, what's happening and all of the different assets which we have. So we have two historical reasons. We have 2 different YouTube channels. One is purely for Office 365 development, and one is for the development and non-development topics. So it's a mixture of things, mainly due to historical reasons. We're looking into potentially merging these together at some point. We do have a lot of open source assets available. There's sample galleries for Microsoft Teams samples, for SPFX samples, also for Microsoft Teams, and then list formatting samples. For example, well, a lot of stuff what Chris Kent shows in this course being available from there. And then if you're wondering on so many URLs, well, how would I remember all of this? It's a simple thing. It's a one URL AKMS M365 PnP. It is our community URL and location from where you can then find all of the links and assets and links to SDKs and tools and documentation. So really simple thing. Now, a few recurrent updates and reminders. We do have our community and Microsoft sample gallery for Microsoft Teams samples. So if you're looking into getting started on Microsoft Teams development, take advantage of this. Don't start from scratch. We list all of the available samples for Microsoft and all of the available samples from community from one single location. It is intended to be a helpful location for you, and you can also contribute. So that's, again, one way of sharing value and sharing learnings for the others in the community is by sharing samples like we've done in the past as well. Now, something new which was announced actually last night, which is a Microsoft Teams UI kit and UI library. And if you're interested in building Microsoft Teams application, please do take advantage of this. So first of all, there's a design guidance and design assets like a Figma files and design UX assets available. And then there's a new library available which provides you reusable controls, which are using the Fluent North Star controls. So, but they're really, really nice, really polished way of actually implementing consistent looking Microsoft Teams user interfaces, and that is certainly our objective. So whenever a user moves across the different application in Microsoft Teams, they would have a consistent look and feel, so that they don't look completely different application, because we're in the shell of Microsoft Teams. And this is the first step. We're heading to the forward on sharing a set of controls and assets to help you to be successful on this journey. By the way, please provide feedback on those as well. Whatever works for you and what's suitable for you, or if there's any issues, please submit issues on the repos, submit issues on the documentation, and in general, let Microsoft know what is needed. Also, we do have our Sharing is Caring initiative, but I will throw the quick intros on that one, where we are with this one, to David. So, David.
Thank you. So for all those in the community that are either new or have been here a while, it's valuable to know that we are an open source inclusive community with lots of tools and resources available to you. But we also understand that sometimes utilizing those resources and tools, and or even better, contributing back to those tools can come with a few hurdles. Things like understanding GitHub, how to submit a pull request, how to use SPFX samples with all the various versions of Node and SPFX. Sharing is Caring is an initiative that's been set up to provide live, hands-on, interactive guidance to show you how to use and how to contribute back to these initiatives within the community. Hugo, myself, and April Dunham run these sessions, so we welcome you to please register for any of them. You can see some of the upcoming sessions that are available in January, more coming up in February. And then, of course, we're starting some new sessions that'll be coming soon, one of which is the Ask Me Anything. That's already been scheduled for February, right after the monthly call, and it's going to feature the PnP JS team. So bring all your questions about PnP JS or any PnP questions you might have. They're all free of charge and interactive, and again, small, intimate sessions where you can feel free to ask any questions you'd like. So we invite you to please join any of those sessions, aka.ms/sharingiscaring, and we look forward to seeing you there. Vesa, back to you.
Excellent. Thank you, David, on that one. And these sessions are really getting a lot of good feedback. So every single time we talk about them, everybody is super happy that they participated on them to learn how to get started on consuming and contributing. Super, super important piece. But now let's jump on the PnP .NET Libraries. Bert, you have some exciting news actually related on this.
Yep. We actually released PnP Framework version 1.0. So our first GA release of this new library. So PnP Framework is the one that replaces PnP Sitescore. If you're still using PnP Sitescore today, you can do, that's fine, but we would recommend you to move to PnP Framework because we only changed that one. There is a migration guide linked from the homepage, from the repo, that helps you kind of translate from PnP Sitescore into PnP Framework. So, and if there's questions, just create an issue list. We'll try to get you unblocked. Okay, just to give you a quick view on where we are in our .NET roadmap and our vision. So we ship PnP Framework GA, PnP Core SDK Beta 2. So now we are actually working on preparing for PnP Core SDK GA. So that will happen in February. One little cool thing that I wanted to mention is source link support. That's something that we added for our NuGet packages. This source link support enables you to debug our NuGet packages. So if you're using the PnP Framework package or the PnP Core SDK package in your project, and something goes wrong or you want to understand what happens under the covers, you can simply configure your debugging experience in Visual Studio, and then you can press F11 and you go into our source code and look around, play around, learn. If you find a bug, it then becomes easier to understand what goes wrong and to create either a more detailed issue or a PR.
That's, by the way, a really great feature. We should actually demo that live on some of the upcoming calls because it's so cool. Or do a small video on that one in the YouTube channel. It's so cool. You can walk in directly to the source code. So.
Yep. And then what did we do on our library? So PnP Framework, so we shipped V1. There were some improvements from Patrick, Helgen, and Gautam, and Erwin. So thanks for that, guys. Our focus on PnP Framework is mainly on fixing bugs that we get, essentially, and quality improvements. We're not planning to do like big new things over there, but just keeping the quality high and improving quality. PnP Core SDK, for that one, we are adding new stuff, new features. So in the beta tool, we have list item full support, recycle support for list items. Paul Bullock did a lot of work on Teams documentation. And there's a ton of other bigger and smaller improvements in that one. And we keep on adding stuff over there. Planned GA version is early February for that one. I think that sums it up.
Cool. Thank you, Bert. So just to recap, PnP Framework is the same as the old CSM API extension, PnP Sitescore, but targeted for .NET 5.0 and .NET Standard. And then the PnP Core SDK is the Graph-first SDK. It's the new one. It's the most performant one, which is basically then using Graph where possible, but then automatically falls back on the REST APIs and CSM until those APIs are offered from Graph. So it's kind of an abstraction layer for all of that, just to make sure that everybody is up to date on those options.
And it doesn't depend any CSM libraries, so you just get like a 1 megabyte library that does everything for you.
Yeah, excellent. Yeah, and 67,000 tenants in December, and still growing, even though it was the holiday season, which is really, really cool. Now, Erwin, what's new with PnP PowerShell? Same thing, GA.
Same thing, we also released. And you see, we didn't release a 1. Well, actually, we did release a 1.0, but within, I think, 15 or 20 minutes, we released a 1.1. It was really fast. But so there's a 1.1 out there already. It's it's almost saying like PnP PowerShell is dead, long live PnP PowerShell. Because there's the new PnP PowerShell is called, again, PnP PowerShell. We already have over 18,000 downloads of the new version, which is actually really cool. We have all kinds of wonderful new functionality in there, batching, for instance, which makes adding list items much, much, much faster. It's an incredible speed difference. And we do that because we have under the hood the PnP Core SDK. That one supports batching. So we already use the Core SDK behind the scenes, and that also means it's actually already stable. While it's officially still called a beta, it is a very stable code, and it works really, really, really well. This also means that the legacy or the Windows-only version, the one that runs in your blue PowerShell, has been retired right now. We moved the repository to read-only state. There's no PRs accepted there anymore. You cannot post issues anymore. You will have to do that in the new repository. We also documented this version much better, I think, just like the Core SDK, which is extremely well documented, if I may say so. The PnP PowerShell is also much better documented. If you go to pnpgithub.io/PowerShell, you'll find a site there with all the commandlets, articles, etc. What will happen in the future? Well, we already moved some of the commandlet backend code over to the Core SDK, and that will happen more and more and more and more where possible. So we're slowly migrating away from backend CSM code to backend Core SDK code, which is effectively the Graph API and the SharePoint REST API behind the scenes. But you should not notice that. So to the outside world, nothing changes.
Cool. Thank you, Herman. Definitely really excited to have a lot of new releases. And actually, there's a really major new version release coming up with the Yo Teams as well. So, Victor, what's up in here?
Yes, I'm super glad that we finally this morning released the preview of version 3, which contains a lot of the requested features from the community, specifically around the organizational structure of the scaffolded project. So that's the big difference you will notice when you scaffold your projects. Also with version 3, I prohibited upgrading of earlier versions. We only support schema version 1.8 and later. There's no point in supporting the older versions anymore. Currently, there's a lot of more features going to be added, but I want to get this one first out so we can get feedback on the structure, naming, etc. of the files. But you can expect better ESLint support, better documentation, meeting tabs is probably the most requested feature right now. I have all of that working on my machine here, but needs some further testing before we push out another preview. So looking forward to any feedback on that. And we just added the GitHub discussions to the repo, so we can have discussions there and not have them in issues. So within a few weeks, hopefully we have a version 3 in as the general available version. Thanks.
Excellent. And there's an ongoing alignment with Yo Teams team together with the Teams Toolkit team and the Teams the platform team, which is great. So
exactly.
These teams and Yo Teams will exist in the future as well. So it's an option in the tool belt. Whatever works for you, you use that one. So really, really cool to see the integration and collaboration on that level as well. Now, a quick update on the Microsoft Graph Toolkit. We did not have significant updates on here because the version 2.0 was released in December. So we released a Graph Toolkit team, released the 2.0 just before Christmas, and there was already a 2.01 release already coming out as well. But it's not new controls for now. And looking into a lot of feedback related on this one, and obviously samples and all of that is more than welcome related on using Microsoft Graph Toolkit. There's a significant roadmap behind all of this as well. So the objective is to make the use of Microsoft Graph as easy as possible with the reusable controls, which is really, really cool as well. And then on the Microsoft Teams side, the latest samples, we actually did have updates on the existing submissions, but there's no new samples as such within the past week. But there's a really cool samples which were quite recently actually added on the Microsoft Teams sample gallery. And these are the ones which are available. We continue collecting both Microsoft samples and the community samples to be surfaced into AKMS Teams samples gallery so that you can easily find any sample across any of the locations in a GitHub, because, well, trying to find the relevant information in GitHub is super hard. Having one location where you can go and find what's relevant for you is really our objective. And we're looking into improving that more and more in the future. Now, before we go to the demos, let's actually do a quick optional picture time. So let me actually, again, flip myself to the together mode, and let me actually start recording as well. So I will get a GIF animation done in a second, and I will share what we're recording. 1 second. This time it seems to be working. I'm not going to even try to change the scene, because last time when I tried to do that, we messed up the recording. We do have a limit of 50 people joining in here, so I'm not going to even actually, or maybe if I enable my video, maybe I'll pop in, or maybe not. No, it's already fully good. Oh, I got to the screen as well. So let's do some waving so we get a nice picture. Everybody, thank you for joining us. Really great to see the faces. I think most of us are working remotely from home, so this is a great way of having real faces as well. Thank you, everybody. It's a great community. Building the best community, tech community in the world. Thank you, thank you. Good. Let me actually get that one back in here. Next, we'll have a really, really cool demo or preview on insanely cool Microsoft Teams app templates related on a timesheet submission by Nidhi. So Nidhi.
Hi, everyone. I'm Nidhi. I'm in Teams platform ecosystem, and I work there as a PM. I handle EU as a region for all strategic customers and partners. And additionally, I enjoy doing these horizontal app templates that we publish as an open source code. We are super excited that this is something coming on 31st Jan. So this is sort of a preview of what we are doing. And the final product will be much, much better than what I show you, because testing. So this is really coming from our app templates catalog. So we publish them as production-ready experiences that our customers can use. Timesheet in particular, this is a very common thing that a lot of customers do. Tools for timesheet filling, and was having trouble with the daily compliance, right? So daily compliance, weekly compliance on timesheet is a big thing, because then you have to report your billable hours to the client and then actually get paid. So this was the problem that we started with, and we deployed the solution for them and then converted into app template. So let me jump to the demo itself. I have like a lot of user stories for employees as a primary persona, so that it's super, super easy them to fill a timesheet and like view their timesheet data and route it to their managers, and for managers to actually be like really seeing all this data and approve the request, all of them together, right, for all of their reports, instead of just approving one by one. So I did a little bit of testing. So this is how you can see like a basic welcome card, which is that as soon as like your IT admin installs the app for you, or they pre-pin it on the left-hand side, which also pre-installs it. As an employee, you will see this. This is the card which is going to be updated with a Tor as well in the final release. So if you click on it, and one thing I would like to highlight is that although I'm showing you all of this on desktop, it was designed for mobile, because a timesheet as an activity, when you get reminded about it, is something that you want to do super fast and get it done with. So this is also super mobile friendly. As you can see, so I landed on the current date, but I've already filled hours for this. If the timesheet is approved, it is green. If it is just saved, it is like this purple, nice Teams color. And if it is rejected, it is red. You can see the total hours for the day. So let me go to like Friday. I can also fill my timesheet and save it for like any number of days, or I can also go back and then edit my hours, right? So let me just like edit this. I've saved 10 hours. So it will give me a nice notification on top that your timesheet has been saved successfully. I can then view all my timesheet data if I want, like for the past weeks, Here, I've not filled past weeks, but I can view them. And I can also see all my tasks that are assigned to be my manager. So across projects. So this is one of the projects that we have. Then we have some projects here. So I've not booked any hours here. So let me just like put some hours here as well. And for validation purposes, like we have that as a configurable variable that you can set a daily compliance, like a daily validation that you cannot book more than like say 8 hours or 10 hours. And at the weekly level, you cannot book more than like say 40 or 45 hours. So you can do all of that very, very easily. And then I have saved it and I can now then submit it to my manager, which is there it goes. And then let's go to the manager persona, which I logged in before. So this will show all of the requests that are pending. If I go to view request, I can see all the projects that I have created and I'm assigned to as a manager. I can also go and create any project, by the way, that I can just go quickly, create this. You can also integrate this with Planner, which was our initial idea, because the demand is now coming from a lot of these intranet tools in enterprise customers and a lot of SMBs who may have just one IT admin guy and that person is doing everything and really need to have like a timesheet management tool. You can also connect it. So we also have connector guidance on it. So if you have an existing backend for timesheet collection, you can also connect it to this for like better reporting. And then of course, since it's an app template, like it's on our app template catalog, it's completely customizable. You can just take that GitHub repo and make it your own. So let's jump into that, like what happened to Diego's request. So here I can see like I have 2 reportees. I can see their number of days that they have filled for timesheet and the total hours. So let me jump to the person that just filled timesheet. So these are the requests and I can select like all of them and then approve them or reject them. If I reject them, this timesheet also gives you helpful data. So like what is the rejection? So I'll show you both. So I'll reject like this 12 hours one, just for funsies. So like edit task. Let's send it back, and then I'm gonna approve the other one. So quickly, this is approved, and this is for 18th, right? I can also go into timesheets and see all of their projects and hours against each task, and the total status of what is happening. So they have saved this day, but they have not submitted. And since I have now routed it back, these days are showing as blue and not as green or red. So let's go back to my employee, like I'm logged in as Diego as an end user. And then here Diego can see. So if I just like refresh this really quickly, because I have a really patchy network today. Yeah, so we can see that like we were on 20th and this got rejected. And this will also come in and in the bot notification that I think, yeah, this is my network. But it also comes as a bot notification, which is just like this, that your timesheet has been rejected for like, this is the edit tasks. Yeah, this did come. And your timesheet has been approved for 18th and for this and this project. So it all comes in like nice chat notifications. And then I can also go view my timesheet again. I can also do cool things as an end user, like I can add a task. So if I feel like in this project, especially for smaller companies, this is a constant problem. Like since the project management is very ad hoc, like I have worked on something which is not here, I can just quickly go create a task from here and then add it to my list and fill timesheet against it. I can also do cooler things like, let me show you from the past week. So like, say, for example, on Monday, I have filled like 8 hours against this task, and then I save them. Okay, that's a lot of hours. This person is really working a lot. Let me just reduce it. Okay, and then I can click on this duplicate efforts and then select the days so that if I'm working on the same task, and especially with like longer projects, if I know as a person that I'm going to be working on this project for like a month, I can just duplicate these efforts instead of filling them every time. And so once I press done, this is all saved, and you can see that the same task will reflect if I go on a Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, whatever. And it also has validation on, say, if I fill now like some insane number of hours. So it will also have this validation that only 40 are allowed, which again is a configurable variable. At a manager level, I can do much, much more. So let me show you cool things at a manager level. So I can see for any project, all of the utilization data, billable, non-billable. I can also set at the time of project creation. I can also go filter it by the time period that I want to see it at. And like here, I can also see the employees that are assigned to this particular project, and then what are their hours that they have billed so far. I can see what tasks they are working on, and then what hours they have billed here. And then I can also remove the tasks or like add new tasks if it is required, right? So this is really quick and easy process. And then you can have as many as number of projects as you want. That's why we removed the dependency on Planner, because Planner could only have like 150 tasks, and then you would need to archive it. So instead, we thought that it's better to use Azure Table right now, and then have a connector facility so that if you have a backend that is already capturing some of this data, you can do it there. Another cool feature is this. So you can actually not only see like the requests, all of your requests in one shot, so that as a manager, you don't get bugged. You can also see them by days, and then you can also see the data again. Last thing that we would like to show you is actually on this. So you can also set reminders on your timesheet. So we are enhancing this welcome card here with one more button, which is going to be in the final release, because this came as a customer ask that anybody can actually set the time when they wanted to be reminded of the timesheet, right? Like, so if I want my employees to have like, say, a daily compliance, but instead of bugging them like at like, say, 9 in the morning to fill timesheet, I as an employee have that control that I can set a reminder and then be reminded to fill timesheet. So this is really quick and easy app template. It's going to be on this link on January 31st. With a complete GitHub repository, which shows you how to deploy it. Like if I just open anyone, so this is how it looks like. So we will have like the complete getting started guide, all the mockups, everything there loaded here. And then you can raise issues here as well if you find any, so that we have an SLA system now and we can actually like resolve them pretty fast. So that was on Timesheet. I hope you enjoyed the demo. We have a lot of customers already wanting to deploy this app. So thanks for taking the time to actually see the demo. Hope you like it and use it with your customers as well.
Thank you, thank you. So really cool preview on the Timesheet application, which is coming. And the next demo will jump from India to US. So Chris Kett.
Hello.
Hello. List headers and formatting and all of that stuff. So let's see. We can see your screen, Chris. So we are good to go. Please remember to go to presentation mode so we don't have to.
You know. That's like hard for me.
That's what PowerPoint is designed for, not to show this slide by slide and slide.
Well, see, my problem is if I do it, then I mess up switching between the screens. I get all confused. But let's try it. Let's see.
Fine.
No, Vesa wants it. Let's give it to Vesa. I don't even know what the presentation button is.
F5.
There you go. I did something else. How about that?
You're in the wrong setup. Yeah.
See, that's you're messing with me, man. It's hurtful. Yep. All right.
Okay. The first time ever I'm putting you off when you're presenting. This is cool. So.
I'm never really on. So. All right.
Yeah.
All right, everybody. This is me.
Take it away.
Right.
Take it away.
So that was the only slide I was going to show. So thanks, Vesa. Let's jump into the stuff here. Oh, ignore that. All right, so we go to our classic Warrior Horses site, and I think a lot of you know that for Warrior Horses, self-improvement is just as important as carnage and destruction. And so as it is a new year, the Warrior Horses have put together a New Year's resolutions list, because you should always put those in a public SharePoint site for everyone to see. So we're going to head on over to the resolutions list. Saw there for just a second. We've just got a simple list here, right? And we've got one little set of column formatting. This is using a column format, slightly customized, that we have as part of our samples repo. And that's cool. But what we're going to talk about today is that list form, right? So when you click on one of these guys, right? This guy, what shows here. Now, we've had for some time the ability to customize that using Power Apps, right? In the past, we've had InfoPath and a variety of other things. But now we've got this new option here, this configure layout. So let's take a look at that. So when we hit configure layout, you can see we've got this formatting to header, body, and footer. Now it's a bit of a misnomer because you're really only applying formatting to the header and the footer. And we'll talk about what that looks like. So when I say header, right, what I mean is That's the header. There's already a header. Oh, look at that. Beautiful. All right, so there's the header, and down here is a footer. There's nothing there by default. All right, so we're going to talk about these two sections. Now you've got a spot to put stuff. So let's put some stuff. So if we take a look at the header, right, so by default, it just takes your title and sticks it up there. So we can come in here, and we're going to apply, this is just the same syntax as column formatting, right? So we're going to say elm type, and we're going to make it a div, and we're just going to put some text content. All right, we're going to say my special form. There we go. And if we hit preview on that, notice it also fixes my formatting. All right, so now I have my special form up there. And just like with column formatting, I can come in here and I can apply some styles. Right, so I want to say like font size, and I'll make it 48 pixels. So we'll get it real nice and big, and we can see that guy. All right, so beautiful. We can do things like attributes. All right, and we'll do the class, and we'll just set this one to MS font color. All right, and we'll say purple. That sounds exciting. Boop. Preview that. All right, and we can do those with theme colors and everything else. So now we start to see what we can do here. Now we can put images, we can put, complex children. We can get really crazy with some of this stuff. Very, very cool. We have some samples now for some of this available in our list formatting repo. You can see them under form samples. Not a whole lot here. This is a great area to contribute if you're looking for it. And one of them here, which I think is fun, a very complex sample here. You can see this is called the blank header. So if you came in here, right, and you had nothing, right, you automatically get that. What if you don't want that? Because it's right there, you don't want that. Paste this sucker in. Bam! Header's dead, right? So that's the header killer. Very exciting. We've got some other items here. What if we wanted to take advantage of some of these fields, right? We wanted to actually display some of that. So if we were to come back in here and we wanted to say text content, we can actually reference those fields just like we did before, right? So we'll reference that status field, for instance. We just want to show it up there. There it is. Never mind. And it matches, right? And that's very cool. And we can use that even, a little further. So if we take a look at, let's see, we toss some of this in. I'm going to grab a sample as well off of here. Let's go back. We have this nice status header and footer. I'm going to grab that. And I'm just going to grab this JSON as well. I'm just going to cut and paste right from GitHub. Right from the website. I'm copying everything, so I just highlighted everything and I choose copy. Now I come back here and I can just paste that in. So paste. All right, then we preview that, and bam! So now we've got ourselves a nice header, and some of the cool things it's doing here, it's using the same kind of logic we've seen multiple times through column formatting, but it's just looking at that status, right? So it's looking at the status to determine the same color. So it's doing the same thing that our status column is doing to get that same color, and it's showing an icon over here. Again, using that kind of logic. Now, if we'll go ahead and save that. The nice thing is this thing is live. So as we switch it, you can see that it actually redraws our header, which is really, really cool. All right, so maybe we have decided we have trained a small squirrel for secretarial tasks. Right, they're done. And that's awesome. Now, what about this footer? Let's jump in there, and then we'll talk about some limitations we've got. So if we come here and we configure that layout again, we head on down to footer. I'm going to once again just head over here, and I'm going to go back, and I'm going to grab the status footer just to grab all this. So it does the exact same thing as just a box at the bottom of the form. So we're going to paste this. And one of the nice things we're going to see here, ooh, fancy. So now we've got a border at the bottom just to kind of match our overall color scheme, which is, again, based on an actual field for the individual item. We've also put this exciting copyright text in case someone forgets what organization they're in and that you own this form data. You too can have a copyright, right? Formatted to the current year, so it's always up to date. There we go. So I'm going to save that. That's exciting. So now as I'm looking at these items, right, I get this nice header and footer, so I can say murder and stuff, and it totally just kind of works. So that's awesome, and that's where you can apply some of the formatting. But what are some of the limitations here? So there are definitely a few. One of the biggest limitations is with row actions. So if I head back over here, and I'm just going to go to our column samples, where we've got some, let's see, generic row actions right here, and I'm just going to grab one of these. So I'm just grabbing a standard, we'll grab the delete one, just a standard column format that you would normally apply to a column. If I grab that, and if we close our form here, and we'll just take this field here that has no formatting on it currently, advanced mode, and I'm just going to paste over that just to show that we have a format. So there's our format here. And all this format does is when you click on it, it chooses the delete option. So it's the same as selecting it and then picking delete up there. And that's really cool. I'm not going to delete these, but that's neat. But one of the things you'll notice is that if we go into one of these items, that doesn't work here. All right. You do get all the nice formatting here, but because when you click on these, they become editable, you lose the row actions there. But we can also go in and kind of show something else, which is when we configure the layout and we go to that header. Let's paste that same format here, and you can see, hey, it worked. That's great, but nothing happens. So none of the row actions, such as edit the item, open the item. Some of those obviously don't make a ton of sense anyway, but sharing, deletion, and starting flows are not working from inside the form. One other thing that's not working are custom cards or hover cards, which again makes sense in some ways, but if you're using a format that has been relying on that is not going to work in your header or your footer or even in the column formats themselves. And one of the frustrating things with that is the column formats don't have any context for where they're drawing. So it's awesome that it shows here, but I have no way of changing this here when I'm in a form compared to when I'm in a list item. So when I'm showed in the row or if I'm showed on a page in a web part, none of that context information is available to you. So you just have to kind of make do around some of that. So I'm going to cancel that so we don't lose our beautiful header. All right. So let's move in. What about that body, right? So we've been looking at the header and the footer, and as I mentioned, I don't want to call this formatting, right? So there's a couple things you can do, and the first is just kind of edit the columns. Before I go nuts, I'm going to remove that trash can. Let's just kill that. So delete it, and trash can is gone. All right, let's go back in there. We just open the item, and then we have this item here for edit columns. Now, what's cool about this is you can see I've got an additional column I haven't been showing in the view, right? And you can see it here. But maybe I don't want to show that all. Maybe it's some internal thing. I'm setting the flow or some other thing, and I don't want it to be editable or shown on the form. Yeah, it's simple as that, and I hit save, and it's gone. Wow, that's exciting. All right, if I want to edit these columns, I can bring it back in. That's fine. If I want to drag it up, maybe I want it above status. All right, save that. There it is. So all the nice reordering, which we've always been able to reorder these, but it was a lot more complex, and it was in a back behind-the-scenes old-school classic interface. Being able to move these around now is awesome. You can go even further, though. And that's with these conditional expressions, right? So a conditional formula. So if we edit this, we actually get to use the same Excel-style expressions that we use in column formatting. The difference is we want to return a true or false value. So we have to start with the equals, just like before. And so in this case, we're going to say if, we'll reference the status column, equals done, right? Then we're going to say, show it, otherwise don't show it. And this is kind of the syntax they demo in the documentation, so we'll save that. And so now, if we save, you notice that link doesn't show up, but if I change this to done, bam! There it is. I didn't change the order, but it's up there, right? So now it shows. So it is conditional and shows exactly what you're doing. That's very, very cool. There are some real caveats to that, however. One of those is that link here. So if we edit that conditional formula, you can actually simplify this. Just as a fun fact, you can get rid of the if statement altogether as long as it returns a truthy value. All right, that'll work the same. So that's a little bit easier to read. But if you're doing anything complex, I understand why they've got the if syntax kind of there for you. But one of the things that gets a little tricky here is, let's go ahead and save that just so it's always showing. And let's move it back down. Let's go back in here. If we go into our configure our layouts, we're going to go back into, let's say, the footer. All right, we're down there. Instead of a copyright, let's say we want to just put, a value. So we can reference a value, right? So just like we showed before, we can reference status instead. And there it is. Now, if we reference certain values, like, say, link, which is a hyperlink field, unlike in column formatting, where you've got to reference just the name of the internal column to get the URL, and then add a .desc to get the display. You get everything, and you can't actually do the subproperty. In fact, I found so far I can't really get subproperties in the header and footer, and there's some other kind of inconsistencies there. I'm assuming those are bugs, and that's coming, but I don't work for Microsoft, so I'm not going to confirm that either way. So definitely some limitations, but you still can get that information. You can apply some expressions if you wanted to pull some of that out. Now, one of the interesting things here, right? So I'm just going to save that for now. If I go back and I say, edit those columns. Now, if I take away link, right, and we save, you notice the footer can no longer display. I no longer have access to that value. And in fact, the same is going to be true if I edit those columns again and I come back in and I make that conditionally available, right? So equals, what do we say, status equals done. When I do that, I still don't have access to that value. So if I save that, so even if I move this to done, well, now I have access to the value, so I don't know. If we refresh, we'll lose access to that value. But the idea is there's very limited access here. Other fields such as ID, modified, created, all those kinds of fields that you can generally reference inside list formatting, even if they're not a part of your view, are not available. So some frustration there. Again, I think that's probably coming, but I'm not 100% certain on that. But still, very, very cool, very, very powerful. Now let's take a look here at one other portion, which is the configure layout for the body. So although it says formatting, it says paste your view formatting JSON here, it's a totally different type of JSON. So it is still JSON, but it's not formatting JSON. There's no formatting to it. So one of the things we've got, so if you just want the bare bones, so everything right now is single column. And if you want that kind of wrapped look, we have a sample for that just called, let's go back to our view samples or form samples. Let's click on form samples and we're going to grab that wrapped body. Another exciting JSON. All right, so we're just going to grab this JSON. We're going to paste that in here. When we do that, you'll see the columns start wrapping, which is very, very cool. You can't control how many columns or anything like that because it's all wrapping, so it's based on the amount of real estate. So as you shrink your window, some of these columns are going to go back down to 2 columns or 3 columns, kind of depending on that real estate. But that's very cool. So you can confirm these sections. So again, it's not formatting, it's more of a grouping of column types. You'll also notice that attachments is a kind of special case in many instances. So attachments, you either disable that or enable that with the list settings. You'll notice it wasn't a part of our columns that we can move around or hide conditionally or anything like that. And in here, it actually shows it completely separate from these and put a line in here that wasn't there before, right? So if we get rid of that and we preview, that line goes away and it's just at the bottom. And when you use attachments and you create these kinds of sections, attachments, if you list it, will always be at the bottom of your section regardless of the field order, which is a little strange. But let's see what we can do here. So we want to create some sections, right? So we want to create a section, and let's just put field in here. So we can just put our fields, and we reference these strangely by the display name, unlike everywhere else where you reference with the internal column name. So this is the display name. So if I wanted responsible horse, the internal name has no space, but I have a space for the display name, so I need to put a space here. If I preview that, you can see it doesn't do a whole lot because I only have one section, but if I add another section, we'll say field, which is always a required thing, right? In this case, I'm just going to leave it empty. The idea here being I could have a display name, though. So for display name, which is all lowercase, it's not camel case like some of the other fields, but we're going to call this display name is other, right? We're going to just put a comma there. I'm going to preview that. And bam, I know I'm right at time here. I'm just going to show a couple more things and we're done here. So the idea here is you could put this here and then everything else that's left over will end up there. You can also list those fields just explicitly if you'd like. But this allows you to change not only that ordering, but how they're wrapped and how they're grouped. A couple things to note. Again, you don't have to have a display name. You see the top section here doesn't have one, but it could. There is no way to format this, so if you wanted to change the color or the size of that, currently there's no way to do that. And that's all you can do. So there's really no formatting here. It's just the section kind of layout. All right, let's do a really quick wrap up and then we'll be done here. So headers and footers, draw what you want. Here's the limitations. This is where the pause in the recorded video is going to be really helpful. So just pause on these slides if you'd like a little more detail, because I got to fly. And then our form columns. Again, everything shows up. It's really cool. The biggest problem here is that there are limits with those conditional expressions that only works with a subset of the column types, and certain subfields are not going to be available to you. And then in those body sections, right, there are some definite rules Mostly, if you just play with that, it'll kind of make sense how things show up. Sometimes there's divider lines. If you don't put a display name, there's no divider line, for instance. So there's some interesting stuff there. The biggest gotcha is going to be that reference by display name. And if you change that, you're going to have to go back in and change this. So keep that in mind. And finally, here's the documentation. So check out the documentation. Reza Durrani, who's on the call, has put together an awesome video. Check that out. It kind of goes over the stuff in a little more detail. And then we have these several samples for you. And that's it.
Excellent. Thank you, Chris. Really, really cool stuff, and good to see that you fall back on outside of the presentation mode on the last. So it's really hard to learn new tricks, right? All good. Just messing with you. And I love the fact that you were trying to use Zoom it. So or you used it for a while. So we're getting there. All good. Cool. Now, Appy, you're next on the line. We have 13 minutes. Take it away.
Awesome. So there we go. I've got 3 slides, really going through them quickly. Introduction on the CLI for Microsoft 365. My name is Albert Jan. Most people call me Appy, like Vesa just did. I work at Portiva, Dutch company. If you've got questions on the CLI, don't hesitate to reach out on Twitter. And with that, let's have a quick look at what you can actually do with the CLI. So the CLI, we believe that you should be able to manage your Microsoft 365 tenant instance from any platform. So the goal of the CLI for Microsoft 365 is to provide a cross-platform experience to manage all Microsoft 365 services in a unified way using any platform or toolchain, and it should be easy to use, which is probably obvious. It also should be secure. With that, what does that mean? We built a toolchain that works on Windows, macOS, and Linux. It works in any shell, so PowerShell, Bash, command line, CMD, whatever you're using, and it has one unified login to log into all services. We're using Node, so if you want to play around with it, we actually require you to install Node, but by using Node, we allow you to travel across multiple platforms, so your same scripts would work on any platform. We're using Vorpal to build the command line, which is really interesting if you want to play around with it. And when logging in, we use the Azure Active Directory to make sure that we swap out tokens for any instance that you would like. So without that, should be a quick enough of an intro. Let's have a quick look. Let's have a demo on how it actually all looks. So what I did is I created a new virtual machine, and I'm going to switch to that. 1 second. There we go. So this is a new virtual machine in Azure. It's just Windows 10. Nothing else in it is installed yet. The only thing I did is I swapped out the background to make sure that I'm working in the correct machine. And the first thing that I want to do is, let's say I want to play around with the CLI. So what I need to do is I need to download Node. And what I also need to do is I'll need to go to the documentation to see the steps and walk through. Now we've got a really cool website explaining everything you need to do. And as you can see here, it's just running this command after you install Node. So what you'll need to do is you'll need to get the LTS version of Node. You can pick whatever installer fits your system. I just downloaded it already because I didn't want to wait for it. Installing Node can be done the way you like. So if you're running NVM, you can install multiple Node instances. But for this demo purposes, I'm just going to do the next finish. Next install. It's going to take 2 seconds, but while it installs, let's quickly go through the documentation already. And as you can see here, we've got some introduction text, but it's only installing this part. So if you want to use npm, it's running npm I, install the CLI globally, and you're done. We also support Yarn, so if you want to look at some other package manager, you can use that. So let's see, we're already done there. So with that, let's do PowerShell. So I've got PowerShell running, and what I now can do is I can do the npm I global and make sure that I install the CLI. This is going to pull in all the packages that I need. It's going to take another few seconds, but as you can see, it's probably roughly 2 to 3 minutes to install everything you need to work with the CLI for Microsoft 365. Because once I'm done with the npm I, that means that everything is on my system. There's no other dependencies, no other configuration that I need to do. And with that, I would have all the required elements to start working or start playing around with different scripts. So let's see, clear the system, and let's do the M365 to see what actually happens if I fire it up. You can see if you call it without anything else, you just get a description, you get an explanation of several default commands, as well as all the command groups that we have. Now, if you want to do anything with your Microsoft 365 tenant, the very first thing that you will need to do is you'll need to actually log in. I mean, that makes sense, right? If you're not logged in, we're not allowed to do anything. So in order to log in, what you'll need to do is you need to do the M365 login screen. This is the default behavior. It will use the device login option. So I can go to a new tab and I can go here. I can grab this specific token. Let's do that. It's going to ask me to pick my account, provide my password, and there we go. As you've seen, we've now been signed in and everything is good. I can close the screen. You will see here that I'm back to my command line. So I can now run M365 status and that will tell me that I'm logged in. I'm logged in as Albert-Jan. So all looks good. I can now start playing around with different things. Now, what I can do is I can use the help command to see what's all there. So all the options that I have. And you can, as with any CLI, play around with different options. So I could say, let's do M365 help SPO just to see what all commands in the SharePoint Online are. So if I go to the command group, you'll see that I can do things with the app pages. I can do things with features, fields. So these are all the commands that are available by default. And what I then can do is I can say, let's do M365 SharePoint Online SPO. Let's do sites list, just to get a list of all the sites that are available for me in this specific demo tenant. As you can see, I've got a few and I can start playing around with it. Now, this is the cool part about the CLI. And if you go to the documentation, you see that we've got quite an extensive list of all the commands that are available, as well as explanations on how to use them and what you can all do with it. Now, you can see we've got quite an extensive list, and there are some advanced options as well. So if I'm playing around with the different commands, I can actually query things. So, for instance, I can make some more complex scripts if I wanted to play around with, let's say, larger data sets. So if I would do the M365 flow list, maybe I want to list all the available flows in my environment. Now, if I run this command, what you actually get is you get an explanation saying, hey, you are missing a required option. So if I want to list all the available flows, I actually have to specify the environment. Now you get an example explaining what I need to do, explaining all the parameters that you can pass, as well as a sample. Oh, apparently I have to specify the environment using this specific name. Now, as you can see, a default environment has a GUID. I have no clue what the GUID of my environment is. So what you could do is you could use a somewhat complexer query, and I could say, let me paste it because I'm not going to type over that. I could say I'm going to use JamesPath. Oops, only paste it once. And what I can do is I can specify a query where I say within that query, I want to do a contains on the display name, and the display name should contain the default value. So if I do this, what will be returned is that specific environment, if I would have multiple, which contains the default in the display name. And this is the name of my default environment. So if I have that one, what I then can do is I can say, let's print out all those different flows. So I can now say, I'm going to list all the flows. I'm going to paste that. Apparently my copy is broken. No clue why. That's always tricky. There we go again. One more try. There we go. So I can do the M365 flow list environment, pass on the default environment, and I could convert from JSON. What I now get is I get now a set of PowerShell understandable formats. So I could use that command and I could paste it instead of doing the convert JSON without specifying a PowerShell var. So what I can now do is I can just put it into that flow variable, and I can start playing around with it. I can do things format display name just to get things running. So you can mix and match CLI in PowerShell core if you want to do that, or you can use bash if you want to do that. Now, if you look at what we have, all the different options that we have on our website, what you will see is that we've got a bunch of sample scripts that explain all the things that you can do. So here you go. I can go to, let's see, Microsoft Teams, and there is a sample to remove a wiki tab, or there is a list of all apps usage. So what I can then do is I can just copy paste this code. And what this will do is it will write all the apps. And as you can see, it's a sample script. So write out all the apps in the different teams. And what I can do is I'm already logged in. So all I need to do is I need to copy it. I'm running PowerShell, so I'm going to grab the PowerShell core, but there is a bash version as well. But I'm going to copy this. I'm going to paste this. And it's going to take a second to load everything. I can press enter. As you can see, there were a total of 6 different teams. And now it lists all the different apps in all those different teams. Now, because I'm zoomed in quite a bit, it looks slightly weird. But as you can see, I've got some bot templates. I've got Chatbot, Asana, Pray, Stream, a bunch of apps in the different teams that are on this tenant. So if you want to start playing around with it, it takes 2 to 3 minutes to actually set up the CLI. And you can go to these sample scripts to see all kinds of handy samples that you can use to do reporting or do configuration against your Microsoft 365 tenant from any device. So whether it's Windows, Linux, or Mac OS, it would just work. The samples are out there and you can use them. There are a few other concepts that you can do. So you could have your own authorization and access tokens. You could do command completion, explaining how you get autocomplete, either in using Commander, in using PowerShell, using Bash. So it's all written out what you need to do, how to install it. We won't have the time to do that today, but I hope I gave you a brief introduction, convinced you to install the CLI in those 3 minutes that you require, and let us know what you think of it. With that, looks like I'm right on time.
Excellent. Thanks, Abby. Really, really great stuff. And it's actually from the statistics we were just chatting about this one like recently, that most of the usage actually on the CLI is from Windows. So those developers who are familiar with command line tooling, they want to use this one rather than, well, some of them want to use PowerShell, and it's completely fine to combine. So again, it's a set of tools available for you to take advantage to manage your tenant, and there's no right or wrong as such. But thank you, Niti. Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Abby. Really, really great demos today. Q&A went throughout the session in the chat. The recording will be available in our YouTube channel within 24 hours. And the next M365 channel on Dev Call is on February 4th. And then the SPFX call on a week from now at the same time. All of our community calls are listed in AKMS M365 PnP. And this is the full list, of course. So there's quite a lot of stuff happening. Choose those calls which you want to actually join. We always share the agenda a few days before the call. So, and then you can always catch up with the recording. But thank you everybody from the session today. Once again, thank you for the demo presenters, and thank you for the constant and active discussion in the chat as well. Really, really cool stuff. Thanks everybody. Cheers. Bye-bye.